And here is SOL topic number 7, solving all equations. The first types of equations we're going to look at are polynomial equations. Polynomial equations are non-negative exponents, and we want to write them in standard form. There are no radical signs, there are no absolute value bars, there are no variables in the denominator. We will need the TI calculator if we're looking for imaginary solutions, and there's definitely a possibility of imaginary solutions with polynomial equations. So this first part of our tutorial, we will be using the TI calculator. So we're going to be using one of the applications in the TI calculator, so we're going to hit the Apps button. We're going to pick number 4, which is the Polysymult 2 program, and after that we're picking number 1, the Polyroot Finder. We're going to be choosing our order. That's another name for the degree, and that's the highest exponent. We're going to make sure we type our coefficients correctly from standard form. We're going to watch out for our signs, positive coefficients or negative coefficients, and we're going to be sure to highlight A plus BI mode so that we can calculate imaginary solutions. Let's look at our first example. What is the solution set to x squared equals 16 minus 4x? Well, the first thing I see is that we are not in standard form. We need to set this all equal to 0, so I'm going to add 4x and I'm going to subtract 16, so therefore I will have x squared plus 4x minus 16 all equal to 0. We must see our 0 to be in standard form. Our terms must be in declining degrees, so the x squared term and then the x to the first term and then our constant. And once we have that, we can use our calculator. So let's pull up our TI calculator. We're going to hit the Apps button, that's right here. We're going to select number 4, which is the Polysymult 2 program. We're going to hit any key. I'll just hit enter. And then number 1, the polynomial root finder. This will find our roots, our zeros, our solutions. So it's going to first ask us for our order. Our order is our degree, and typically we're talking about a quadratic, so that's why 2 is highlighted. We definitely want to make sure that we are highlighting the A plus BI mode, so please push enter on that, and all the other things can stay what they are: fraction, normal, float, degree. I'm going to hit next, so that's the graph button, and then I'm going to type in the coefficients that I see. My screen looks like this. Your screen might be typing the coefficients side by side. Just make sure you type in the correct coefficients. We're looking for our first coefficient, which is 1. Let's pull up our calculator again. So we've got 1 and then enter. The next coefficient is positive 4, so I will hit 4 and then enter. The next one is negative 16, so I'm going to hit negative 16 and then hit enter. Once I have my coefficients, I'm going to hit solve. The graph button will solve it, and it looks like I've got some ugly decimals. And none of our answer choices are, at least not in decimal form. But many of them have radicals, so I'm going to see which ones have the same decimals. Let's first look at our decimals. I've got negative 6.47 and positive 2.47. So let's just jot those down. I've got negative 6.47 and positive 2.47. So I'm looking for the same decimal points in one of these answers. Well, I can eliminate some of them. I know that those numbers are not plus or minus 4, so that's out. I also know that there were not any i's. I don't see any i's anywhere in this problem. It would usually be right here at the end at this solution. So there's no imaginary solution. So that means that this third choice is out and this fifth choice is out. So we're down to 2 plus or minus 2 square root of 5 or negative 2 plus or minus 2 square root of 5. Well, I have the decimal version, so let's type these in and see which one I get. Let's do 2 plus 2 square root of 5. So I'm going to quit out of this app. So second quit. And I'll have to do that again, second quit, and now I'm out of the app. Let's type 2 plus 2 square root of 5, and let's hit enter, and I get 6.47. Well, it's supposed to be negative 6.47 or positive 2.47, so this is not one of our answer choices, so that means that this is not going to work. I still want to confirm that this is the answer, so I'm going to type this in and just make sure. So I've got negative 2 plus 2 square root of 5. And yep, there's my 2.47, so that's that guy. And then the other one would be negative 2 minus 2 square root of 5. So let's type in, and you know what, I'm actually going to go select that previous thing, save some time, and go just change the plus sign in here to a minus sign and see that I get my other decimal, negative 6.47. So that is my answer choice, and I will select that. When you have a polynomial equation, we suggest that you use your TI calculator and the application for the polysymult 2, especially if you're going to have imaginary solutions. We are going to use Desmos, our Desmos calculator, to solve all other types of equations. These are equations that have radical signs, absolute value bars, variables in the denominator, basically anything except a polynomial. And how we're going to do that, we're going to look for the intersection point, or points if there's multiple solutions, for each side of the equation. So what we're going to do with our Desmos calculator, we're going to type y equals the left side of the equation and y equals the right side of the equation. Remember, if we have any funny symbols, those will be found in the keypad, like square root symbols or cube root symbols or absolute value bars. We're going to look for the x coordinate. We're just looking for the x coordinate or coordinates where the two graphs intersect. If you do not see the intersection point, we're going to have to zoom out until we do, or we could drag the screen until we do. So let's look at our first example. It says, what is the solution set for square root of k plus 64 minus 8 equal to negative 2? What we're going to do is we're going to type the left side of the equation as y equals, and we're going to type the right side of the equation for y equals. Two separate equations. So let's pull up our Desmos calculator. If you don't have your Desmos up there yet, please do that. I'm going to type in the left side, so I've got y equals, and it's the square root. So I'm going to go to my keypad, and I'm going to find the square root symbol, which is right here. So the square root of, I can use k plus 64, and then out of the square root minus 8. That's the first equation. And then the second equation is simply y equals negative 2. Y equals negative 2. That's the right side of the equation. And I'm looking at this graph. Okay, let's open this up a little bit. I'm looking at this graph. I see the red graph and the blue graph, and it looks like they're going to intersect, but I just don't see that yet. So I can either drag this screen, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to drag the screen until I see, yep, they intersect right here. And if I click over there, I can see that intersection point. The actual ordered pair is negative 28 comma negative 2, but remember we're just looking for the x coordinate, and that is negative 28. So we found that by dragging the screen. If we hit the home and go back to normal, we could also find it by zooming out until we see the intersection point and click on it, and there it is, negative 28, 2. Negative 2, excuse me. Or another thing we could do, if you are hovering your mouse next to one of the axes and you hold down the shift button, it will change to a double arrow if you hold down that. And then we can, oops, I'm on the graph. And then we can actually change the graph's stretch just in one dimension, just with the x's. So I'm holding down shift and moving across the x-axis with my mouse until I see the intersection point. So that's a third way to find the intersection point. Remember, if you play around with your graph or your zooms, then always hit the home to go back to normal for your next problem. But I believe we have our answer, and it is the answer of negative 28, and that is answer choice A. So I'm going to circle that. Thanks for watching this tutorial on how to use the TI calculator for the polynomial equations and the Desmos calculator for all other types of equations. Have fun with your packet. Good luck.